Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we have an update with Maple Gold Mines. Today we have President and CEO Kiran Patankar joining us, and we also have VP of Technical Services Ian Cunningham-Dunlop joining us. Our last webinar with Maple was in June 2024, so we're definitely due for an update. Last week, the company announced the start of a 10,000 meter drill program at the Douay Gold project in Quebec. And before I hand it over to Kiran and Ian, just a reminder that, as usual, today's webinar will contain forward-looking statements. If you'd like to learn more about those, you can find them in the presentation on the company's website. And welcome, Kiran, and welcome, Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Magda, and thanks to Adelaide Capital for hosting us. It has been a while since we had a chance to speak with you, so delighted to give you an update on all the progress we've made.
Awesome.
We have a presentation here. I'm looking forward to interacting with your audience, but we'll get started right away. Just to reiterate what Magda mentioned, we will be making forward-looking statements during the course of today's presentation. Just to get a little bit of knowledge on who's presenting today. Obviously, I think the audience is pretty familiar with me, so I'll skip some of my background, but one of the delights in this business is having and building a team with really strong people and good people. And I'm delighted to be here with Ian Cunningham-Dunlop. Ian was brought on as our VP of Technical Services in August of last year, has made substantial progress. Obviously, he's got a great background, lots of experience as a professional engineer, advanced project development, lots of good geologic expertise, particularly in Quebec. And Ian will be presenting a fair bit during this largely technical presentation. We'll try to keep it high level and allow for lots of Q&A, but it's the first time that Ian and I have had a chance to speak with you together, so delighted to be here with him. Just real quick, I think most of the viewers are familiar with some of the highlights of Maple Gold. But I wanted to point these out before we get into some of the details on our drilling and our plans for 2025. Maple Gold, by virtue of some very smart transactions last year, currently controls 100% of a large district scale 400 square kilometer land package that straddles one of the principal gold bearing structures in Quebec's Abitibi Gold Province. It's a fertile region. We're well endowed with an established 3 million ounce gold mineral resource at our Douay project, a past producing high grade mine complex at our Joutel project, which contains a past producing Joutel mine complex, which was Agnico Eagle's first gold mine. And there's lots of exploration blue sky across the entire land package. We'll speak to some of that later in the presentation. The location, of course, as you're looking at opportunities in the junior gold mining space, which is obviously lagged. The gold price, I think, is poised for some significant outperformance in 2025. The location really matters, right? It's finding gold ounces, finding quality ounces in a region with a rich mining history, great infrastructure, and all the obvious advantages that Quebec has, which is why it's a preferred destination, and also importantly a destination where we've seen recent significant M&A. We also have fully funded growth catalysts, right? And their organic growth, obviously, with drilling and de-risking our current 100% controlled project. That was part of the work that we did last year, was properly capitalizing the company. So we have, we'll talk about our exploration budgets and the things that we're doing, but we are well set up to deliver outperformance in 2025 by virtue of the reset that we did with the company and the projects last year. And again, can't say enough about our strategic partner at Agnico Eagle. We talk a lot about, in this industry, we talk about having validation from a major. Here we have Agnico Eagle, who was our former JV partner, is our current largest shareholder at just over 16%, and has invested almost 25 million. It's almost equivalent to our current market cap in terms of direct project expenditure as well as equity investments in Maple. So I think there's a compelling value proposition underpinning Maple at the moment, but we're going to talk about what we're doing right now and this year and going forward to catalyze value and deliver value to shareholders. This is obviously, there's a lot of things to highlight about the project, but I want to highlight a couple of important things about where we are. Our resource area is really a 6 by 2 kilometer footprint that's located along the Casa Berardi deformation zone. We control about 55 kilometers to strike along Casa Berardi, but the opportunities for further exploration along a deep-seated mantle tapping structural break with lots of gold on it are significant. This is an alkaline intrusive related gold system, but it has multiple styles of mineralization. Ian will be speaking to a lot of this, and I know why he's excited about the project. We talked about established ounces, past production by Agnico. We'll talk about a little bit more about the exploration upside, gaps that we're testing. And of course we have, if we have success here, there has been some initial metallurgy, and we are moving these projects while we're doing good exploration. We're also moving these projects down the development pipeline by looking at opportunities to update our mineral resource estimate and do complete a scoping study by the end of this year. So the metallurgy is important, and it shows excellent recoveries from a combined gravity flotation leach process, similar to what's being used at Detour Lake. The key thing is the next steps, right? De-risking and expanding the Douay mineral resource with, testing of some very new and exciting drill targets. 10,000 meter program, as we mentioned last week, is currently underway. The split is 70% in the Douay mineral resource area, 30% in the greenfields, new discovery targets. Also advancing parallel development to evaluate certain areas, particularly Douay West and some other areas where there is potential to look at some standalone, advancing a standalone project. Looking at a mineral resource update scoping study at back half of this year. And we're also planning 3,000 meters, importantly, at our Joutel project, which currently I don't think we're getting any value for in the market and doesn't currently have a mineral resource on it. This is also what we've done to set the company up for success over the last couple of months. We've talked a bit about what we've done. I'm a big believer in, you have to set the right conditions for success. So obviously we talk about the corporate transactions and the financings that we've done, but in the meantime, on the ground, there have been significant efforts spent by our team, our new team, obviously led by Ian, streamlining the site, standardizing and putting into place best practices from an exploration, from a site management perspective, building the right team, utilizing a great workforce in Quebec, including third-party exploration services that we can utilize when we're busy, that we can, step away from, so we're not, just spending money year-round. Again, it's efficiency and productivity that have been the driver. It's allowed us to spend more time looking at rocks, developing proper vectors, incorporating all the data. And you can see a lot of things that were done here to set things up properly for an exciting 2025. I'm going to just touch on the geology and then turn it over to Ian. But I do want to remind our viewers that the geology is, not only is the geology favorable, but we're located along a major structure, and particularly we control the majority of the land within this dilation zone between the Casa Berardi North Fault and the Casa Berardi South Fault. Our current Douay mineral resource area is located in purple. It sits on a postage stamp size of the overall land package. And you can see the blue outline, that is the 100% owned Douay Gold project. Ian will be talking a bit more about the Douay resource and the Douay deformation zones, north and south, and some of the new structural interpretations that we put together. I will also highlight that by virtue of the transaction we did with Agnico Eagle, Maple now controls 100% of the Joutel gold project in yellow. And by virtue of a smart option deal that we did with Globex, we control 100% option on the Eagle mine claim, which is part of the Joutel mine complex. So we control all of this, and it's ripe for exploration, and we're extremely excited about it. But that's just an orientation as to where we are. Ian, why don't I turn this over to you? And maybe there's some things here. Obviously, this is new. This is a new geologic interpretation, but this is a lot of the work that you have done. So over to you.
Thank you, Kiran. It's I guess just to echo what you were saying earlier. I just joined last August. I'm pretty excited to join Maple. It's not often you get an opportunity to work on a project like this, on a major break with a 3 million ounce gold endowment already in place. And I guess I've just been so impressed with the amount, the style of the gold, just the extent of the mineralizing system here, and the deep sort of mantle tapping nature of the Casa Berardi Fault. So I think there's a great opportunity for Maple Gold to sort of run with this resource and hopefully make it bigger as we keep exploring it. We've got a number of new products that we'll sort of be showing in the next few slides. This geology map has sort of been evolving over the last year. We've done a lot of work on data compilation, detailed cross-sectional and level plan interpretations, a lot of work on alteration, geochemistry, and this map is sort of a culmination of that. You can see the Casperarty North trend, the red dashed line in the top part of this image, and essentially the property is straddling two major groups of rocks, the Taibi sediments to the north, which are composed of finer grained sediments, iron formations, volcanoclastics, and the main Cartwright Hill group to the south, which is largely volcanics. In the middle of that, the pink outline is the Douay intrusive complex. It's an alkaline complex. It's the key driver of the whole gold system. There's gold zones associated with the intrusion, with dike swarms coming off the intrusion. And we're also seeing more sort of orogenic style gold in the volcanics themselves. We've got sort of the list of the zones on the west side. There's 12 different zones in total, and at least 5 different sort of geological settings for the zones, and from intrusion related all the way down to shear hosted breccia related to the intrusion itself. So it's an evolving picture. As I said, I like the fact that there are so many different potential host rocks on the property. You can see we've got the outline of the Douay deformation zone. This is a splay that comes off the main Casperarty fault, and it bounds the resource area. We've got the sort of the Douay deformation zone north and south branches with the intrusion sitting in the middle. We know at least we're interpreting that there's a rotation, a dextral strike slip rotation as between these two strands of the Douay deformation zone, sort of rotating the whole intrusion. And through that, it's creating pressure shadows. We're seeing a lot of folding on either side of the intrusive complex, a lot of shallow folding that we're picking up in the regional magnetics now, with sort of plunges, which you'll see on the long section later, shallow plunges to the east and to the northwest. We also think there's a lot of late brittle faulting going on. There's one particular fault in the middle that goes right through and sort of bisects the Porphyry Central Zone and the Porphyry East Zone and runs into the main zone and central zone on the north strand of the Douay deformation zone. So we think that's an important feature as well. It's where a lot of the high grade is concentrated on the property.
One of the key things, of course, as Ian goes through this, is this is a new geologic map with a proper structural interpretation. And I think you would agree, Ian, that there's what the work of last year really did bring to light the key structural control on mineralization that wasn't previously illustrated. Is that fair to say? That is,
yeah, that's a fair assessment. We're doing a lot of work now on trying to understand the structure. We've implemented a oriented core program for the current round of drilling. We're trying to quantify deformation as we see it downhole in terms of intensity. So all of it should add up into defining these higher strain corridors within the property.
Excellent.
This is also something new. We decided it was time for a bit more of a proper stratigraphic column for the project. So this is a summation sort of from the Taibi group sediments to the top all the way down into the Joutel Raymond group at the bottom. And it gives you sort of an appreciation of where all these zones are sitting. You can see the northwest and what we call the northeast IP zone sitting right on the Casperarty at the top of this section, straddling sort of a volcanoclastic sediment contact. We've got the main and the central zones pretty much at the contact between the sediments and the volcanics. And then the main porphyry mass on the left side of this picture, it's the Douay intrusive complex, or the DIC as we call it. There's a mixed zone, which is sort of mixed volcanics and porphyry on the side of that. We've interpreted a breccia sitting on top, which may be hosting the Nika zone. And then the bulk of the resource, probably over 55% of the resource, is within the porphyry zone. But there's a number of dikes coming off the porphyry that are intruding the surrounding mafic volcanic rocks. And so there's an interplay with the mafic volcanics and interflow sediments. So we have a number of zones that are hosted along the margins of dikes or in the sediments themselves. Douay West, Zone 10, Zone 20, Douay South at the bottom. 531 has been a high-profile target for the company the last few years. Some of our highest intercepts are from 531, and now we're recognizing that there's a fold pattern, that's a shallowly plunging, possibly to the southwest fold, with gold hosted within interflow sediments. So that's an important target. And then all the way down at the bottom, Eagle Joutel Belt is sitting at another major boundary between the Harkina group and the Joutel-Raymond group, and in more of sort of a it's semi-massive pyrite horizon, almost an exhalative horizon. So it's a slightly different style again, but it just shows the sheer prospectivity of the whole stratigraphic sequence that we're seeing gold at so many different levels and timelines throughout the property. This is going back. We're working with a group out of Val-d'Or now, ExpoLogic, who have a long history on the project, and they've been doing a pretty serious compilation the last couple of months on the alteration. So this is part of the work that's come out of their due diligence and interpretation. So it's trying to understand the timing of alteration. So these are a series of images from the intrusion of the Douay complex into this sequence, and then the resulting alteration that's happened as part of that intrusion coming in, and also the break itself. So early calc-silicate alteration, sort of a contact metamorphic features related to the intrusion. Then we have a phenotized zone, essentially a rind around the intrusion, which is characterized by hematite, calcite, magnetite, and biotite, and then followed by a hematization and K feldspar event. And this is one of the more important ones. 3 and 4 are sort of the key alteration events for gold. 4 is sort of a complete albitization of the earlier alteration, bringing in sodium-rich feldspar, and we see a lot of fluorite veining throughout the mineralized zones. It seems to be a key as well. And then a late event of ceratization, mostly in the Taibbi sediments to the north. So this is an evolution. And I've sort of simplified it for this slide. There's probably 8 to 10 different types of alteration that we're mapping out now. But as I said, the number 3 and 4 seem to be the key where we're seeing the overlapping assemblages.
And for the lay people in the audience, I mean, we're covering a couple of things that have been done, and what's the relevance of all of this is that, looking at a new structural interpretation, a proper structural interpretation, using proper geoscience to identify the alteration and the influence that both of those have on particularly high grade gold emplacement is a sort of a prima facie to actually planning a drill hole and planning a drill program, right? You can't go and just drill without having some interpretation and having some understanding based on the data that exists. So that's what was really done over the course of last year. Now I want to get into, and I think Ian's going to get into, how do we find more ore, and how do we find, really and expand an economic gold deposit, right? This is where it actually matters.
Yeah. So this targeting parameter diagram, it was something that came out of one of our directors, Gerald Rivian. He's a big fan. He's used a similar concept in VMS exploration, but the key ingredients for finding gold, a deep structure, one that's mantle tapping like the Casperity Fault is sort of the most important starting point. The presence of a major intrusive center along that break, like our Douay intrusive complex, and all the associated dikes that come off that into the surrounding rocks. Presence of carbonatite dikes is really important. Carbonatites are rocks with more than 50% carbonates, and they also suggest a sort of deep mantle tapping fluid source. We're also seeing specularite, particularly in the 531 zone. It also seems to have a close relationship to the gold. So when you start overlapping all of these, you slowly sort of define a target area. Saying all that, you have to have enough room and size for a world-class deposit, and we think we do. And the fact that everything's pointing to a deep source, that's the key ingredient for any sort of large world-class systems, is to have that deep mantle tapping fluid source. So all of these parameters are interrelated in space, so that they overlap to produce the drill target that you see in the image on the right, and finding more ore and discovering an economic gold deposits is what we're trying to do.
Yep. So let's talk about the program.
So what we've proposed, what was in the press release last week, a $6.3 million program. That's roughly 10,000 meters at the Douay project. We've reserved 3,000 meters for a program later at Joutel in the year, and also other components of both exploration and development programs. So of that 10,000 meters, 70,000 is focused on the main resource area, 30,000 on new discovery targets. These are outboard from the resource area, both west, east, and north up into the sediments. So we're pretty excited about that. And within the resource area itself, really trying to convert inferred to indicated resources. There are some pretty big gaps in the current inferred resource base. And so we're going to try and fill some of those gaps if we can, to try and connect, and really demonstrating sort of connectivity between the higher grade zones within the inferred as we do that, and targeting the down plunge extensions. There's been a past history on the property of chasing sort of deep, steep plunges. The new interpretation we're working on is that the plunges are a bit shallower, so we're going to sort of work systematically, testing the sort of less than 500 meter depth portion of the resource, build up our confidence in the understanding of the geometry of the zones, and then step out sort of boldly below 500 meters and try and chase them to depth. The initial focus right now is Porphyry East targets. You can see the picture up in the upper right. This was taken last Tuesday with the drill rig from Major Drilling mobilizing the site and onto the first setup. This is on the Porphyry East target, where some of the highest grade within the porphyry zone has been recorded in the past. So we're going to move from Porphyry East. We've just completed 2 holes. We're on the 3rd hole right now, which will be finishing at the end of the week, and then move up to sort of in a big circle central zone, then out to the Nika zone to the west, a couple of regional targets, and then back into the meat in the sandwich, as it were, with the Porphyry West and Central zones, really trying to understand the geometry of the zones in the heart of the porphyry, and then finishing off at the 531 and main zone on the east side of the property. In parallel with that, we think there's an opportunity to look at parts of the 2022 resource, particularly the Douay West zone, and tackle it as a potential underground mining scenario, to see if it could be a standalone operation at Douay West with the 450,000 ounces that are there. And given positive feedback and results, resource update later in the year, rolling into an internal scoping so we can sort of revisit the economics for the project.
And Ian, just given your, sorry to interrupt, but given your background with having worked with RPA in the past and discussions with SLR, I think it's fair to say too that a lot of this is also, when we look at an updated MRE update, we want to do that. Although the 2022 we did in parallel with Agnico, and SLR did an excellent job. Obviously, some things and interpretations have changed. I think we're also driving towards having better geological and structural constraints on the resource. Is that fair to say?
I think so. The 2022 resource was very well done, but I think there's an opportunity with a tighter geological model to refine that resource and make it better. But yes, I do have a bit of a long history with RPA, now SLR consulting out of Toronto, and I've been involved in many projects, taking them through this stage, through discovery, through resource development, all the way through to advanced exploration and development.
And as well as Ian said, we have 10,000 meters at Douay, but as we mentioned in our press release last week, we do have a planned 3,000 meter program at Joutel for the back half of this year. Back over to you, Ian.
Okay, this is the map that was in the press release, which is just sort of highlighting the target areas. The 3 holes in purple are the ones that we're just in the progress of doing right now. We're on the southwestern one, is the one that the drill rig is actually on at the moment. So we're targeting high grade within the Porphyry East area, and also the relationship of that high grade to this northeast trending fault that's coming through. There seems to be a bit of a coincidence with this fault with the Douay South zone, the high grade in the Porphyry East, and also up into the Central zone. And we're trying to understand that if that's more of a long-lived structure that's has some control on the high grade. So we'll move from Porphyry East up to Central, out to Nika, and then so sort of a big sort of counterclockwise circle, I guess, through the zones, and end up on 531 and main zone on the east side of the property. But yeah, that's just an outline of pit shells. And this is the long section that was in the release. Again, just a focus on the main target areas. I get the main takeaway from this slide. If you remember sort of past long sections from Douay, every arrow pointed steeply to the southeast on this long section. We now are understanding that there's a lot of all these zones are different. They all have slightly different plunge controls, particularly related to this earlier folding event. So 531 sort of shallow to the sort of the west northwest. Main zone has a steep plunge, and it almost looks like the mirroring on either side of the porphyry. We're getting sort of westerly plunges on the east side and then easterly plunges on the west side. So the porphyry is obviously controlling the plunges of the zones. And then Douay West, again, sort of both a steep and a northwest plunge, almost like the main zone. So trying to understand that with the drilling we're doing in the first phase above 500 meters. And once we get a handle and get comfortable with the plunges, then we'll start stepping down deeper, more in the phase 2 targeting.
And you can see the traces of some of the deep drill holes that were drilled back in 2022, 2023. That is not the target. Here we've got lots of potential to test in the upper 500 and certainly the upper 1,000 meters. Those are expensive holes. We think there is indication of a bigger system, certainly, but I think understanding the geometry of the individual zones within the Douay deposit and then vectoring off of that to step out and go down plunge, it's emblematic of our return on investment and value-oriented exploration philosophy, right? I think that's fair to say, correct, Ian?
I think so. And another takeaway from this, we've sort of added just for a reference, the size of the Canadian Malartic camp. We really like the Canadian Malartic model and the East Goldie discovery that Agnico has made in an old camp. And obviously we have a pretty good, great relationship with Agnico. So I've sketched in the outline of what potentially a kind of a target model we would be looking for, recognizing that East Goldie doesn't start till 500 meters down and extends to almost 2,000 meters, but it's a fairly significant resource. It really highlights the potential of the sort of the northern edge of the property going up into the Taibi sediments. East Goldie is hosted within the sediments, and the sediments at Douay is a part of the story that's never really been tested. All the focus has been on the intrusion and the volcanics to the south. So it's something that we'll be targeting with the regional part of our exploration program going into the sediments. And I'm looking for Canadian Malartic style or even Casa Berardi style, which Hecla's mine is also hosted within Iron Formations in the same Taibi sediments. So lots of opportunities. This is a breakdown of the meters that was been asked by a few people, but of the 10,000 meters, 4,000 in the porphyry zone, and then pretty much an equal amount amongst the rest of the zones, 531 Nika, Central, Main, and then roughly 15% of the program dedicated to the regional targets. And as I said, those will be mostly testing brand new geophysical targets, combination of mag lows and EM anomalies, and some are undrilled, some are very sparsely drilled. So that's a new opportunity for us. Again, another picture of the drill rig on the first site. And just a reminder, the resource statement, this is the 2022 resource that Maple and SLR Consulting did. You can see the breakdown. There's a lot in the inferred category. It's roughly a 83%, 17% split between inferred and indicated. And also the component that's actually in underground, roughly 15% of the resource is in the underground category. So total of just over 3 million ounces for total mineral reserves, resources. Yeah, same numbers I just stated, 17 indicated, 83 inferred. You can see the outlines of the inferred in blue, the indicated is in green, and the outlines of the modeled Whittle pits as part of the SLR estimate. So in hand with all of that exploration work, we'd like to get the ball rolling on some development initiatives. The plan is to sort of review the resource. We've already had some preliminary discussions with SLR back in the fall. We're planning on re-engaging them to sort of look at the resource. Are there opportunities to carve out higher grade portions of that as standalone underground operations? Right now it's mainly modeled as an open pit with some underground, but we'd like to really focus on the underground part, given the current gold price environment too. It was much different price for gold back in 2022 when the resource was done. So the initial focus would be the Douay West zone, which currently holds roughly 286,000 ounces in indicated, 169 in inferred. And it's also where the existing infrastructure is. The Orezone built the head frame you see in the picture and hoist room, dry office complex at Douay West back in the late 1990s. So it's obviously an opportunity if we can carve out a higher grade underground resource at higher cutoffs to take advantage of that infrastructure.
And some of the people that we're working with as well, Ian, we've added some folks to our team that have experience having worked with Orezone both at Douay and Casa Berardi. So we're using some of that knowledge. That's certainly the project's been around since the 80s. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here and start from scratch. Obviously, we've got a lot of data, but there's been a lot of work done here, and it's nice to bring some of that knowledge back in house as we progress.
Yeah.
So So thanks a lot for the updates. Obviously, there may be some questions here. I just wanted to remind the audience where we are in terms of our cap structure. We're sitting with 450 million out with some options and warrants, bringing the fully diluted total to just shy of 500 million shares out. We're trading just above our low price. I think there's lots of room for share price appreciation with a fully funded organic growth program for 2025. Current market cap is, as of yesterday, just shy of 30 million. And we're trading up in terms of the volumes. We're seeing a volume pick up about 300,000 shares daily over the last 3 months on the TSXV. Cash position as of September 30th, including proceeds of the financing we completed subsequently, was just shy of 10 million bucks. We started the year with right around 8 million. Shareholders, we mentioned Agnico Eagle is our largest at just over 16%. We have some institutions, key institutions that have supported us all along the way and participated in the last financing at 23, just about 24%. Individuals, insiders at over 1%, increasing positions, obviously participating in the last financing as well, and then about just shy of 60% as retail. Excellent research coverage from Michael, Lauren, and Mark. Just again to summarize, and then happy to turn it back to Magda and to the audience for questions. It's a pure Canadian gold play. Canadian gold projects, always typically garner premium valuations, particularly when the gold price is doing what it's doing, and majors are starting to look around for quality ounces in a top tier jurisdiction. We've got great infrastructure, established resources, past producing mine trend, for which we get low to minimal value. Big land package, big system, lots of strike on a first order structure, validation from Agnico, a great technical team, especially Ian, who's done an amazing job in just the short time that he's been here. So we have a lot of hope and excitement around this current drill program, and proving a lot of the good work that we've done over the course of last year to set the company up for success, while also maintaining capital discipline and developing our projects in a responsible and sustainable way. We're well capitalized. We've got fully funded catalysts and a resource expansion discovery drill program that's currently underway. And all of this is, trading at a steep discount to our peer group, but at just over $5 an ounce per ounce in the ground. So I think there's opportunities to re-rate. I thank everyone for their attention, and both Ian and I are happy to answer questions on the call. And of course, feel free to reach out to us directly. We're happy to talk to investors at all times. So thank you, and I'll turn it back to Magda and Deborah. Hi, Deborah.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you, Ian. So we've got quite a few audience questions that we'll start off with. In a little more detail, would you discuss your Douay Phase 2 drilling plan?
Well, that would be after we complete the Phase 1. The Phase 1 is sort of small step outs on the existing zones to really try and understand that plunge geometry, and then 50-meter step outs at the most, and then if we're happy and confident that we're understanding the plunge, then we would start boldly stepping out 100 meters or more down plunge.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And then with the benefit of much more comprehensive analysis and planning, how would you contrast the 2025 and 2023 programs in terms of goals and the probability and measurement of success?
Well, I'll try and answer that. I obviously was involved in the 2023 program, but the last round of drilling was essentially eight deep holes at both the Douay and the Joutel projects. Really trying to swing for the fences and find the deep extensions of the mine, or at least the known resources. So we're I guess taking a much more conservative approach, where we want to sort of methodically step out, understand the zones first, and then step out with bigger and bigger step outs, rather than going for the 1,500 to 2,000 meter holes right off the bat.
Yeah, and I would also add that the 2022-2023 deep drill program really reflected the shared objectives of Agnico and Maple in trying to define a bigger system at depth, similar to what was done at Malartic with the discovery of the East Goldie and Odyssey deposits, which we all know have extended the mine life of the Malartic camp by many years. We own the project now 100%. Obviously, great great work done by our team with our counterparts at Agnico to set the projects and the company up for advancing this in the right way going forward. I would agree that it is more conservative, perhaps, than the 2022 and 2023 program. That's by design, because we're not each one of those holes, as Ian said, it was 8 holes. We drilled 6 of them. Each of those holes cost almost $1 million a piece. Almost $800,000 a piece. They had technical success, but it fell short of what the guidance was in terms of what we were trying to achieve. And the market and the share price, the market didn't like what we were doing, and the share price suffered dramatically. So we, not only in order to advance the projects, but also to regain and recapture what we feel is warranted here, which is a premium valuation, we need to show that there are significant opportunities to expand on the existing resource. And we think we can do that. Even though it's described as conservative, it's probably just relative to what we did in 2022. As Ian said, it was swinging for the fences. Here, we do get a lot more holes with a 500 meter vertical depth type of program. So as we said, we've got, for our 10,000 meters planned at Douay this year, we're going to do 25 holes in some high prospective areas where we can focus on high grade. And that also gives us the potential to do a 3,000 meter program and looking at similar depths at Joutel. I think the objectives, of course, here are to just remind the market of not only the ounces that we have and the quality ounces that we have in a great jurisdiction, but the upside potential of both projects.
Yeah, and I just to follow up on that, the team's done such an excellent job over the last year, just compiling data, relogging core, building brand new models. So I think we're going into this program with a fair bit of confidence in terms of what the potential controls on the gold mineralization might be, the structures, the alteration, etc. So I think this approach is the best, and we'll sort of do a first pass, and then as we get results back, then we would return and sort of do another lap and follow up with the phase 2 component of the drilling.
Got it. Thank you. And Can you speak to some of your goals and expectations with respect to the updated MRE you mentioned and scoping study?
I'll take this, and then Ian, I'd love to hear obviously we've talked about this extensively. I think we mentioned this during the course of the presentation that, the goal is really for us, it's 2022, the update over what we had originally done as part of the RPA resource estimate in 2019, which obviously attracted our partner, our JV partner. The 2022 resource update was really based on 7,000 meters of drilling that we did in 2020 and 2021. We did a fair bit of drilling post that resource update. Obviously, some of those were deep holes that were a bit more, bigger step outs. But the goal, I think, of the a resource update plan at the end of this year is to really incorporate some better interpretations, all of this year's drilling. Obviously, the gold price has gone up, but updating our cost estimates and really trying to hone in on what is actually potentially mineable within the deposit, as opposed to just constraining a resource using some broad parameters and looking at a total ounce count. I think we've had a number of questions along the way. We're trying to respond to not only what the market is focused on, but what investors are asking quite a bit, and analysts and the street is asking for. What do you think is economic within the current 3 million ounce endowment? So we have a team. We've done the work over the last year to try to set it up, and I would say advancing things on parallel tracks, as we talk about EV to resource being a poor man's metric for valuing companies. But I do think it's fair to say that a better constrained, geologically constrained resource is going to ultimately help us as we go towards project development, and it'll help us as well for targeting purposes. So I would say this year's goal certainly is to try to upgrade and expand the existing Douay mineral resource and start to put a bit more color around a potential mining scenario, right? And that would lead, of course, to a robust scoping study and potentially PEA. And again, remembering the metrics of and the parameters of the deal that we did to acquire 100% of these projects, there is actually at the end of all of this strategy, not outside of just looking at trying to get a better valuation for the ounces that we have, maybe looking at net NPV focused metrics for what does the project look like on an economic basis, NPV and IRR basis. It's also that we do have a back end right. Agnico has a back end right that's tied to a development milestone here, and so I think there is some relevance to corporate strategy and continuing not just to go for high upside exploration, but really do methodical exploration in a known resource area, do step outs, and continue to de-risk.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just one question from me before I hand it over to Deborah. Do you know when we can start seeing results from this program?
Well, our first batch of samples from the first hole was dropped off at the lab on Monday. We're anticipating probably 2-week turnaround for assay results. So we'll wait to have a critical mass, probably all of the first 3 holes on the Porphyry East target, and we'll sort of release those at the same time. So late February, early March, in time for PDAC, when I would be hoping for the first set of results.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, over to me, I guess. Nice beard, Kiran. You're looking more like a mining engineer. Appreciate it.
It's cold out in Quebec now, so it's a preparation. Obviously, we're spending a fair bit of time, Ian and myself, out at site. Ian is a bit more clean shaven than me, but it gets cold out there. It's we had a couple days of minus 35 over the last couple of weeks, so I'm getting ready to make a trip.
I like it, blending in with the locals. Okay, so some audience questions here. Can Kiran
hopefully not about my beard?
No, that's just me. I'm the only one dumb enough to ask questions like that. Can Kiran comment on the Agnico attitude to their investment in Maple Gold? Does it seem more predatory or beneficent?
Beneficent, symbiotic, win-win, I think is how I would describe the relationship. Listen, I think most of your audience and that I've been with Maple since 2021. That was when we had the joint venture with Agnico. I spent a lot of time, obviously, even before joining Maple, with the team at Agnico, building the relationships amongst the C-suite. It's been a pleasure over the course of the last 4 years building the relationship throughout the Agnico organization. It's a wonderful company. It's well led, and there are very smart people at all levels. As I saw, one of the things, of course, you go growth strategy, you go to CFO. And when I became CEO, I was actually interim GM of the JV. So it's building a lot of the relationships with the technical team on the ground in Val-d'Or and in Rouen. And, I do think that there is a real excitement. There always was a belief that the Douay system is bigger and can get bigger. It's got a fraction of the drilling of some of the, similarly sized, both in terms of geochemistry, geological, geophysical, and geochemical footprint. It's got a fraction of the drilling of some of the known mined and operating deposits that Agnico is currently involved with. I think what they are looking at right now is efficiency. And I think the deal that we did with them, it took us a year, obviously, to get it all wrapped up, but it was the understanding, of course, of what they're doing. I don't speak for them, but I can say that they have a lot of things on the go. And when they're spending a year to really work with the company to come up with a structure that helps them to see the project advance, they've got a back and right, they've got a NSR on the project. So they do have long-term interest in the region, and I think Douay has already passed the smell test in terms of is it a project of interest to Agnico. They also invested at a premium, right? And so I don't see this as predatory at all. In fact, I see this as highly supportive of their belief that this company and this project are headed in the right direction. We were trading at a share price of 6 cents when they made their investment at a back end price of 8.5. It's 42% premium. That's a fairly rare thing in this industry, and it's been obviously a buoyant gold price, but it's been a capital constrained environment for junior explorers. So Agnico was a key part of financing the 2025 program via direct equity investment into Maple. It helped us to go out and really raise proper money with institutions, and they're great partners. We talk to them extensively. I know Ian talks to their technical team. They've been out to site a number of times over the course of the last year, and I would expect as we go forward with the drilling that we'll get a chance to interact with them even more. Because again, I think what we're all looking for is it took a year for us to reset, but people, I think Agnico and I think the market has started to see that what work was done by the team over the course of the last year was helping to set a new direction and a new course for the project, which was something that was necessary from all standpoints.
Another audience question: if you exercise the option on Eagle, what will it cost?
Yeah, so we have originally, when that deal was done, it was a $2.4 million option deal split as to, $1.2 million in cash and shares, $1.2 million of, money in the ground. Obviously, in our financials, we pointed to the fact that our 2022 Eagle program, we've already more than met our in the ground spending obligation. We have one more property payment coming up in June of this year. That is factored into our budget. It's fully funded, and so we'll earn into 100%. I would expect within 2025.
Can you comment on the skill set of your board of directors and how they add shareholder value?
Absolutely. I think we're, like most junior companies, boards come in all shapes and sizes. I would say for us, there's a lot of strength on the technical side. Ian mentioned Gerald Riverain. I'll speak with Gerald about Gerald first. He's a well-known, he's a PhD, mineral exploration focus throughout his life in the Abitibi. Obviously, he's worked all over the world, but real focus and expertise in VMS exploration practices. I think he's again delighted and has been a big part of helping us to reestablish good exploration practices throughout the company. He's an explorationist at heart. Obviously, we've done some work recently at Morris, which is also a high upside VMS project. It's non-core, but it's something that we think has a lot of potential. So, and he heads our technical committee, right, which is comprised of him, Maurice Tagami, another of our directors, Paul Harbage, who I think most people know is a strong background in exploration. We did some changes to our board over the course of last year. We brought in Darwin Green, who both Ian and I have had the pleasure of working with over a number of years. And Darwin had sold his company to Contango Ore. He was running a company called High Gold, where Ian worked as well on advanced project development. We have a combined technical, and I should say with Maurice. Maurice is ex-Wheaton Precious Metals. He serves on a number of other boards as well, metallurgy training. So as we move forward with advanced project development, Maurice is going to be critical. Michelle Roth is our chairperson and chair of the audit committee. She's based in New York, has an investor relations background. So, and again, I'm on this board. I was appointed when I became CEO, and I bring not only previous board experience, but strong governance and financial fiduciary sort of background. And these are the things that I think have really driven the turnaround of this company. We're not perfect. We're certainly open to better ways of doing things, but I think we're trying to differentiate ourselves. We're obviously we're looking at a fairly low valuation currently, but again, I think the hard work that's been done in setting this company up was really driven by this reset over the course of last year, and certainly we have a supportive and symbiotic board to help with the governance and making sure that we're doing it responsibly and aligned with shareholder interests.
You completed a $5 million financing in November 2020. What was the participation of officers and directors?
Sorry, is that the financing we completed in November of 2024 last year?
Sorry, 2024. Yes, my bad.
Yeah. So officers and directors. I know I myself picked up. I think it was 500,000 units. I think we had another director pick up quite a bit more. I think we in aggregate, I think the ultimate number was probably north of $150,000 of that financing. Again, people back up what we're trying to do, and certainly the board and myself. If you look at our share ownership, it's increased, in line with the float. I would say personally, like I said, that my shares have been acquired. I'm just over 2 million shares now, and if you look at the ramp up of my ownership in the company, it's all come via on market purchases, our employee share purchase plan, which is a great thing to align all of our employees with the growth and success of the company, and appreciation of the share price, which I know shareholders want to see, and having that director support of our and insider support of our financing was obviously a key part of getting to our ultimate number. So I was really pleased, and expect to see us as a collective continuing to support the company and and put our money where our mouth is.
All right. You answered the last question without me having to ask it, Kiran. I don't see any additional audience questions, and you answered all the ones that we had pre-planned. So was there anything else today that you wanted to discuss or cover that we didn't quite get to?
I think we've covered a lot, and I wanted to just say on behalf of Maple, I wanted to say first, I want to say thank you to Ian. Again, it was great for Ian to be able to walk through all the good work that he and the technical team have done. Again, on behalf of Maple, I just wanted to say thank you to you, Deborah and Magda, and to Adelaide. You guys do incredible work. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you, and I look forward to jumping on another one of these when we have some assay results, which should be coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Well, exciting times and a pleasure working with you both. Impressive what you've done with the company over the last 2 years, and looking forward to seeing some of those results through the drill bit. So thanks everyone from the audience that participated. Thanks for your questions. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out. We can get those answered, or we can set up a one-on-one call. Thanks, Magda, for asking the harder questions and leaving me the easy ones. I always appreciate that. And yeah, thanks, Ian and Kiran. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Great.
Thank you. Speak soon.
Yep.